o'clock. I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Bay Oaks Recreational Campus Advisory Board Council, commonly known as BORCAB. It is, let's see, what's the date today? November 3rd. How could we ever forget that? 2020 at 9 a.m. This meeting is called to order, and would you please rise for our pledge to the flag?
For the new members, these are our mics, so a little green light will turn on. If it isn't, sometimes you need to get a little bit closer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, what a wonderful experience to have 7 people here. This is wonderful. And of course, we have a couple of new members we're excited to learn all about. I think the next thing on our agenda is the reorganization of our board. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about our chairman and vice chairman. Yeah.
I think it's just been a really strong board, and I think you both do such a great job at keeping us okay and watching what we're doing and on time. And I just really appreciate both of you.
Well, thank you. I think we enjoy being here and doing it.
We do this one at a time, don't we?
Pardon?
We do this one at a time, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, I move nominate Betty Simpson remain as chairwoman.
We have a motion and a second.
Need a second? I'll second it.
Okay. Oh, I think Barb seconded it over here.
I heard somebody else.
Yeah. Pretty fast on that sometimes. Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll move the approval of that. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for that vote of confidence. And for our vice chairman.
I move to nominate Barbara Anderson Hill as chairman.
I second Jana Holmes.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Not, I'd entertain. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Well, thank you. And I think Barb and I have enjoyed doing this and working for BORCAB. I think that we have a big year ahead of us. We have a lot going on, so it's important for us to be able to continue. Thank you. All right. I'd like to go out of order for just a moment, if you don't mind, and let's hear from our new members. And I see Beth over there. Beth, would you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
I'm Beth Cherry. I have several kids that have gone through Beach Elementary and have enjoyed Bay Oaks for years. I am on the board for Fort Myers Beach Soccer, so we utilize the fields as well for that. Been living here on the beach somewhere around 20 years. We've owned property here 22.
Welcome, and welcome to BORCAB. I'm sure you're well familiar with Bay Oaks and everything, so we appreciate your participation with us. So thank you, Beth. All right, and Holly.
My last name is actually Holly Sweeten now. I was married in February, so my last name is Sweeten. Yes. I've lived on the beach probably 15 years. My son went to Bay Oaks. To be honest, there were some things that I there, and that's part of why I joined this. I would love to see the Bay Oaks facility utilized more. I just feel like there's people I talk to that don't even know Bay Oaks exists.
Yeah.
Welcome.
We're still saying that.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of potential and room for growth, which doing more events, doing more of this, in turn brings more revenue to businesses, makes the island better, and I just feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. But I love it. I think it's a great facility on this beach.
I love having both of them in my group because they both have children,
Yes.
my grandson's age. And,
Indeed.
in my, when we were volunteering at school and doing sports together and everything, Cone is my 14-year-old grandson, and both of them have 14-year-olds. So, yeah.
Oh,
So there's a connection, and school volunteering, a lot of that.
good.
So we're Beach Elementary people. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Well, we look forward to your participation with us, so. Yes.
Limited amount.
Limited, vaguely, just not in no details or insight.
Good. All right, now let's move on to item 4 on our agenda, the approval of the minutes from the September 1st, 2020 meeting, and I believe you've all received a copy of those.
I move that we approve the minutes, September 1, 2020.
Thank you, Janice. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Karen? Further discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that passes unanimously. And that brings us to item 5, the redevelopment update, and I believe we have Chelsea with us. Good morning, Chelsea. Oh,
Hold on, I think we're good. It's green. Okay, let's try this again.
Just throw it around a little bit.
Yeah, toss it, slap it. My name's Chelsea O'Reilly. I'm the Public Works Director for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I'm working in tandem with Allison and her staff on this redevelopment project, one of 3 projects, Times Square and Bayside Park being the other 2. What Allison and her staff have prepared is a portion of the 30% submittal that we received given to council within the last month. Mind you, 30% is very preliminary. Received a rough engineer's estimate, which is still drastically over budget, so we have to pare down some items, and we'll be working in the next month or so to try to really pare down and get it to within the budget that has been plotted, which is the 5.5 million. So between the town manager, staff, Allison, myself, trying to reel down that number. As you'll see, these are the floor plans that have been determined based on programming needs and operations. We are still working with the school district to get the shared use agreement in place. The first of the two steps was completed, the interlocal, which set forth the path of exchanging land with the school board, was adopted and approved by both the school board and the town council. The second step of this two-step process is a shared use agreement, which essentially sets forth how both entities will share the amenities and facilities throughout the school year. We do have some deadlines to meet. We're hoping to have both boards approve that shared use agreement by end of January 2021, with the holidays, election, and members of their board, et cetera, getting everybody up to speed with what has transpired thus far and what we intend on how we intend on moving forward. That's going to take a little bit of time, but we are pending a draft version from the school board of the shared use agreement. And essentially, it'll set the baseline for, by July of each year, the school, Mayor's Beach Elementary, would provide the Parks and Rec director or town calendar. So that essentially just the legal terms, we're trying to get that through. The board has the attorneys and then their cousins that have to review it too.
Yeah.
So, but that is kind of where we're at today. We are moving forward. The next step, the next milestone would be 60%. And so that is what we're striving for with this project. Again, we're trying to pare down some of those costs. We maintain the operational and programming needs, this redevelopment, and hopefully bring meeting soccer, Little League, school districts, towns, everyone's needs, trying to meet them as we develop. So I know where we're at, and I'm here if you have any questions.
I have questions. Is Roger going to be here this morning?
I have not today, but he said he would be.
Lee, if you ask the question, I can perhaps relay the question, and we.
I'd like to talk to Roger, but okay, so if you're standing in for him, I'm trying to understand what's happening here. Regarding the October 9th presentation to the council that Paul and Roger made, I was very confused at that meeting, and I would like to get some answers today about what happened there. All I saw presented was one building, the community building, and the moving of one field. That's pretty much it. I didn't hear, I listened hard, I didn't hear anything about phases. Was this phase one? Is there a phase two, and if so, when? That's my first question.
Okay, the town council has provided a budget, $5.5 million for this project. We're trying to make this project fit within that $5.5 million.
What does that mean? Does that mean that the other two buildings and other amenities we planned have been scratched?
In the 30% submittal, yes. Right now we have this one single building, 30%.
Is there a second phase?
And as of right now, there's no second phase planned. No funding available for a second phase.
Well, see, I have a real problem with this. In the first place, I think that the presentation that was made to the council should have been brought to this committee. This committee has worked for 3 years, very hard, very passionately, to put together a plan. And I think we were ignored.
We'll get Roger and see if he can address that. But mind you, every time we bring an engineering firm in, there's a cost. So And if it's presenting to this committee, if it's presenting to other advisory committee, there's a cost associated with their time.
Well, now I understand it's 5.5 million. I know you can't answer this. At one point, we were told there was 7 million would be available for this. So I'm very confused over the money aspects here too. I think that there's been, I'm very confused over the money aspect.
Okay, well,
What
hopefully
happened to
we'll
the
get it
7
clarified.
What happened to the 7 million we were told at one time?
I'm not sure who told you 7 million.
It was Roger. Roger mentioned 7 million at one point.
He'll be here shortly to clarify. Are there any other questions?
Times Square.
Elimination of what building? Okay.
So it was actually a little confusing, to Lee's point, about just exactly what money was budgeted. So, yeah, maybe we can get Roger to clarify.
Here he is. At the hour.
Welcome, Roger.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Malick, I had some questions, Roger, that Elsie would just as soon you answer.
Okay.
I was very confused, as you know, at that meeting. I stood up and said so. On the 9th, the presentation that was made, I saw only one building and moving one of the fields. I've asked Elsie this morning if this was it or if there are phases here. Her response was, no, there's just the one building and there are no phases. My question is, why wasn't that presentation that you made to Council on the 9th, why wasn't that decision brought to this committee first, so that we might have had an opportunity to look at it and perhaps come up with some options? If it was a money problem, why weren't we given the opportunity to perhaps recommend some options? After all, we spent 3 years on this committee passionately developing this plan. And I sat there on the 9th and saw 2 buildings cut and some other amenities, I believe, were cut. We had no idea that was happening. Why weren't we given the opportunity to see it and make recommendations?
You have an opportunity now to see it and make recommendations. The project, I came and talked to this committee. I recommended that you think big. I did tell you that we couldn't afford everything that you all might come up with as part of the plan. So, the problem we have is a very simple problem. And as you guys have recommended, is probably in excess of $15 million for Bay Oaks alone. And the Bay Oaks budget is $5.5 million. So adjustments have to be made. If you think that there are better adjustments to be made, we're all ears. We still, even with the plan as it sits today, is probably at $7 million and change. But we still have a ways to go to try to get it to the $5.5 million number. But we'll do that through value engineering. Hopefully we'll get favorable bids. But that being the case, if you have an idea, we'll be glad to take it and forward it to consultants and evaluate it.
So it seems to me, though, sitting at that meeting, that this was pretty well decided.
Well, I've been here now 3.5 years, and I can tell you that council has changed their opinion about items on many occasions, and I'm sure that if you all can come up with an answer that the consultant, neither the consultant nor the staff could come up with, that solves the problem, I'm sure they'd be very happy to hear that.
So this was council members who decided,
We presented the revised plan, the consultant presented the revised plan to the council. It's the meeting you were at, Lee, all the presentation. And the council authorized the consultant to proceed to final design. But if there's a way to get more into the project, I don't think that there's anyone who's not in favor of that. You have a budget constraint that you have to deal with.
well, again, Roger, how are we going to be told this? I mean,
Well-
this revision was pretty, as far as I'm concerned, was pretty major.
You're
we
entitled
had
to
a-
your opinion that it was major. I'm
It was
telling
major,
you,
Roger.
I'm
We had
telling
3
you-
buildings.
Lee, I'm not getting an argument with you. I'm telling you that
I'm not arguing with you. I'm asking a question, Roger.
I'm answering your question. You
Okay.
just don't like the answer.
No. We planned for 3 years.
Hang on a second. That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't, because
Yes, it is.
when this project started, was the entry lot into Bay Oaks, and that was the only project that was being contemplated. I came to this committee, and I told you to think big, and you did. That was very important effort. That wasn't 3 years, Lee.
Yes, it
And-
was, Roger.
Well, maybe you were thinking about it for 3 years.
I joined here in October 3 years ago.
Oh,
and we
that's, maybe you
immediately
were thinking
began
about that,
doing
but there
this.
was no project consistent with what you were saying. First time this came up was when I came here and we were discussing trying to accumulate the land that we didn't even have control of, perhaps build a bigger project.
Yes.
And I can tell you that was not 3 years ago.
No, it wasn't. 3 years ago, when I joined this committee in October, 3 years ago, from that very first committee meeting, I said, I would like to rebuild that campus. And we began talking about it then. Later on, some details began to arise. But we began planning 3 years ago.
Okay, well, I could tell you that I don't remember seeing a plan until it was Ms. Hill, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, but that's when we started talking about the land and big view of the property. But the fact that you were talking about that is great. There was no money, there was no land, and there was no plan. Now, maybe you were talking about moving forward in that direction, but none of the integral elements necessary to actually accomplish anything were there.
Well, and two, the other issue is that there was a lot of confusion about just exactly what property we could improve. And so I have to say, to staff's benefit, they actually worked very closely with the school board to work on this shared use agreement and to define exactly what it is we can accomplish. So I think the pre-planning perhaps might be 3 years in the talking stage among our advisory board, but in terms of what the staff was able to accomplish, really started with that acquisition of that piece of land and then going forward. So, yeah.
Look, I appreciate your enthusiasm and your desire for the property. We support it as well. We want to do as much as we can do. Okay? But decisions have to be made if this project is going to get built. That's simple.
Is there any conversation among council members to think about phase 2 and phase 3? I mean, I think when I was hearing members that attended that shareholders meeting months ago, and we were talking about this grand plan that we had, they said, you know, like staff and council, think big. They said think big. And now this council says, oh, no, you're not going to think big because now we're going to just keep with that 5.5. So I think that disconnect is kind of where we are.
Well, I don't know that that's fully accurate. Okay, so let me see if I can clarify a couple
Okay.
of issues with respect to that. If we didn't think that there would be future additions to what you're looking at today, we would not have set up that building so that another building could be built right adjacent to it, and you would literally walk through one door and you would walk into the next building. So we're contemplating that building will get built. Now, I understand your desire to know when and how, and we don't have that information yet. We don't have a strategy to raise the money for that today. We don't have, we do have a line drawing of how the two buildings will align, and that we're confident that we can get all the other amenities that this committee and other folks have talked about in that building. But you're going to have to raise another $5 million.
Or more.
Or more. So our attention has been on, let's build what we can build, as much as we can build now, and get that built and get that open and get the public at least getting to be able to use those things. Then from there, we'll take a day off, and then we'll start the next day. We'll start working on the next phase.
This platform or this, I mean, so am I seeing this, and I haven't had a chance to look at all the pages, but was our plan for an amphitheater scratched, and now instead of an amphitheater, we're having a platform? Is that my?
Well, when you say an amphitheater, there's one point there was discussion of a freestanding amphitheater building. One of the things that we realized is we can't build 4 independent buildings. Expensive. But we look for opportunities to try to put as many things as we can in one building. And the concept that came up with is incorporating the amphitheater to the back side of the building, facing the field.
When you say we, are you talking not about you, but about the land planner? Is that
The
what-
consultant.
or were you working with the land planner on this plan?
We told them we can't afford 4 buildings.
Okay, so then they went back and this is what they came up with. But was there any staff interaction with this concept?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yes, because the needs that we had, our community needs that were not currently being met right now, our community center, our passive recreation, this can now be met.
Okay.
So, you know, that was really important to the committee and to the staff and community, that we have a community center that can have our bridge club, our senior group.
Yes.
If we have
The
an
fitness
event,
classes.
we could have our teens, we could have yoga, we could have our summer camp, all at the same time. That was what all of those, the little checklists that went off that we all worked very hard on, is incorporated into this right now.
Let me be clear about that. The space, in terms of the public use spaces, and I'm not talking about the common areas and the bathrooms and the storage. The spaces for activities are based on what Allison said he needed in terms of flexible space for future needs of this community. And to the extent that those things change over time, we wanted to try to make them as flexible and adaptable as possible. So once we had those sizes kind of penciled out, then it became, okay, we need some storage, we need some bathrooms, we need some other things to support those spaces. But by all means, if you say today, we don't need 2, I think it's 40 by 40 rooms. We don't need 1. Whatever, or instead of 2 20 by 20s, we need another 40 by 40. And, you know, we can discuss that and talk to the consultants about that. We can't add a 3rd story. We can't add another building. Not under the current budget as I see it.
Is there any narrative to go along with this in terms of what was included and what is cut? For example, clay courts versus, standard courts, the artificial turf versus natural turf. I mean, is there any, so we have a clear understanding about what has actually been cut?
So I can tell you what I know, and what I know is that the field's not going to be artificial turf. It's going to be natural turf at this point. we're still looking for ways to close a $2 million gap that we have. So it's still evolving. But, you know, in terms of clay versus hard surface courts, for example, there's two costs associated with that. One is the actual cost of installation, and the other is the cost of maintenance. Clay courts require a lot more maintenance. Is there an argument to have one clay court because some people feel that it's easier on the knees if you're a tennis player? Yeah, maybe there is.
That one of our former councilmen had to go to Bonita to play on a clay court because there was none provided in our community, which I just think in
Exactly.
terms of that particular council person, it was a high priority for her. Obviously, if she's no longer on council, maybe there isn't a tennis player on our current council that would think that would be a high priority. So I guess it all is fluid in terms of what the perception is of staff and council as to what to include, what to not include.
Well, there's certainly a lot of seniors who want to use the court. Joanne's argument was that that what's there is much harder on their.
The legs and the knees.
That's
Yes.
a lot of
that's
seniors
pretty
who
much
wanna use
accepted in tennis circles, that clay courts are easier on the knees, but require a lot more maintenance.
Well, there's another example, as far as I'm concerned, of something we could have talked about.
You can.
Well,
You can talk about it today.
that's good to hear, Roger. I mean, it's a little after the fact now.
No, it's not. What your assumption is that what was shown to council can't be changed. It can be, and not only can be changed, it will be changed. So, feel free to continue to have meetings and forward suggestions.
When they were having the council meeting, I couldn't see this either, but on these plans I don't as well. So where exactly is the swimming pool according to this plan here? I mean, I know it's going to continue to stay, but I
Do they
didn't
have
see.
the overview shot or not? Okay, the building, if you could think about the sort of, you come in from Astoria Boulevard and then you have a T, which is a street that runs,
Well, it is the
Back page?
it doesn't show the pool.
Well, that roundabout, is that where it doesn't show the pool, that's,
doesn't show the pool.
No.
Okay, so when you come in, you think of it as T, where the roundabout is, the intersection of the T. The lower left-hand corner is the pool, and it remains as is. We have the entrance lane coming into the park. We have the National Fitness Court, so that entrance has some, you could see that indicates that that's the park without necessarily reading a sign.
That's from Estero, right?
From Estero.
Okay.
Vehicular.
see, it didn't show the entrance from the
Yeah,
stair on this
she'll
plan
get the
either,
overview
so-
and show you that.
Is it down to one baseball field?
We have two.
Two baseball fields.
I don't see it on
There's a
the
small,
aerial.
the existing small field stays in place,
Where it is.
where it is.
What happened to the gymnasium?
Gymnasium stays in place until such time as we have enough money to build a new one, and that's contemplated to be adjacent to the new building. You literally walk through a door, right, it'll be a wall, but eventually we would cut out the wall, and you walk through the door, and we have the two doors aligned, so you'd actually walk from one building into the next building. Maybe like you would think at a hospital sometimes, walk from one wing to another wing.
So, Roger, you said there's not enough money. Has there been any conversation or any thought to how we can do fundraising to raise more money outside of what council is budgeted for this? Or have there been any conversations about that?
Well, the answer is that there's been discussion about looking for grants and naming rights and selling benches and bricks and all of those types of activities. And it's great if the Friends of Bay Oaks or others want to get involved with those activities. Clearly, we keep our eyes out for any grants that might be available and applicable, although unfortunately, in the current time we're in, this is not a very good time for those types of things. Due to COVID-19 or revenue reductions in most governments. But all that being said, we have to, when we award the contract, we have to have the money in hand. So if we don't have the money in hand, we can't include that element without it being in hand. Now, all that being said, if you think that gym is more important than the passive recreational activities, it's not too late to switch lanes. We thought that gym, although it's not new, it's not necessarily even adequate, but it still is a gym and still is a weight room. We can get some more service life out of that, and then we could provide things that we currently don't have. But if you feel differently, again, it's inside of the building.
Right.
I'm sorry, when you say passive activities, are you talking like?
I'm not talking about not basketball or whatever, I'm talking about things like yoga and those types of things.
Pilates, kind of the softer sports, if you will, or.
That would be in the new
Senior
building.
program.
Tai Chi, I mean,
That would all
whatever.
be in the new
We
building,
don't- we
right?
can't
The
accommodate
adult
our
fitness
own
classes,
programs.
okay.
We have to rent space off-site. Was to accommodate what we currently have, our needs, would accommodate it.
Question about the roof design, because I know that there were 3 options that the council was reviewing, and I understand.
Facades.
Sorry?
Yeah, the facades of
Yes.
right.
Well, no, actually the roof line, right?
Well,
Is
no,
this-
the thought was to change the roof so that the roof would be stronger in the event of a storm. And what that did is that then triggered facade type of around the building, so it doesn't, the roof structure doesn't look bland. And the council picked from 3 alternatives for that facade.
Understood that if there was going to be a flat roof, if that was the decision, that this building then could operate as an evacuation shelter when there's a hurricane. So if you don't do a flat roof, am I understanding that cannot be an evacuation shelter?
Well, the thought that we expressed was that if the interior wall around the large rooms was, instead of being studs and drywall, was a concrete block wall inside the exterior concrete block wall,
Right.
plus a cement roof, basically you have a bunker.
Okay, that's, yes.
So, and since, as I recall from the plans, the bathrooms are right adjacent to that, we have a shower, we have a kitchen, we do have the makings of a place that you could serve the public in an emergency that would be stronger than just meeting the building code, hurricane protection.
Is it my understanding that we currently do not have a shelter, a authentic shelter for beach residents?
That's correct. Well,
Right.
for several reasons, but one is that while this building is built at flood protection levels, it's not built at surge protection levels. You have a barrier island that could easily get swamped from Gulf to Bay at storm. So our thought was, since this building was going to be elevated anyway, so we didn't have to really worry about the surge,
Right.
Exactly.
but we did have to worry about the wind. But we could address the wind by doing a concrete block wall inside as an interior wall, implemented by the exterior concrete block wall with a concrete ceiling, and you basically have a bunker.
I don't remember from our previous conversations that we were ever thinking that this would have to be a shelter for the beach.
No, we
So,
never.
I mean, that just had never come up. But the idea that it would be shelter for us, I think is important. And so that was something that we had not discussed at all. And I like to see whoever came up with that and all the concrete and everything. It's really important that we take care of our residents out here.
Well, yeah, just to be clear, you know, we're not going to try to shelter the 7,000 people who live here year-round. What we're going to have is a place of last resort for people who decided perhaps to ride out the storm, and then the storm worsened at the last minute, and they were kind of trapped here, and then are looking for a place at the last minute, rather than we have, say, we're sorry, we have no place for you to go, perhaps to have a place for them to go.
Roger, would we need to get, I know maybe I should know this, but would we need to get council approval if we did start doing the donations for bricks and the donations for like benches or whatever else we could figure out to do?
I don't know that, I think that would just be good for Betty or someone to tell the council you're working on it, but I don't think that there's sort of an approval needed.
Okay.
I think working through the Friends group, there's a mechanism already in place for fundraising. So I think that'll be fine, but I think it'd be good for them to hear, and so they could promote it as well, that if you all decide to take on those endeavors. I want to be clear, we're at 30%, basically a conceptual design. We're starting a more detailed design. There's nothing, I say nothing, that's carved in stone at this point. Anything and everything can be changed if there's a good reason to change it. So don't feel like you're looking at this project through your rearview mirror. You're not. You can get at it through your windshield. And there's still room for good ideas. Hopefully some of them will be good cost savings ideas, but good ideas as we go forward. So people, you don't want, I understand why you might think that, oh, when we go to, the reason the consultant gave the report to the council was because we had to move the project forward in terms of their task order. Couldn't ask the council to assign them a task order without giving the council an update of the status of the project. So if we inadvertently slighted you, it wasn't intentional. It was just our attempt to try to keep the project moving forward and keep the land acquisitions keep moving forward. We're trying to keep the loans moving forward so that we could all be sitting here in 2 years and planning the ribbon cutting for something. They're talking about it some more.
Roger, did you, because obviously you were having conversations with the land planner with regard to the amphitheater, which I mentioned earlier. The concern, I think, that one of the council members had raised, which I also have a concern about, is when we were looking at an amphitheater design, which a lot of other community centers have, or parks, is that they have kind of that curved kind of slope roof line that allows for free visibility. And here we have all of these poles,
Yeah.
which is sort of defeating the purpose of having it as a viewing place, especially for concerts and performing arts. So what was the conversation between
So that wasn't really a design. So what happened was they had bleachers behind home plate and bleachers down the first base and third base line. And We said that we can't afford to have a freestanding amphitheater. Let's figure out if we can incorporate it into the back of the building. So that's not the design. It's not going to be the final design. That was just, can we incorporate it into the back of the building? Yes, we can. That's all that is. Now we have to look at, we don't know if that's going to be a fabric structure over the top of the amphitheater, concrete structure, square, move the post, whatever. It was just basically a computer erasing one thing and slapping something else in place.
Seems so institutional. I don't know. I think our design, I get the, the reality check between 15 million and 7 million. So I get that. But, the kind of design that he created with the concept that we provided allowed for a tremendous amount of fluidity between, the fitness area and the fitness trails. And it was just so much more seemingly user-friendly. This is looking like an FGCU building. Looks very institutional. It looks like a hospital. And I just fear, and even with the Bayside building, there's not a lot of room for something being user-friendly. That's just my perspective.
I'm not gonna speak to that yet because I don't really think that those facades and those things are far enough along. So why? Good news is not another rectangular building. We've been sort of calling it the airplane, but because you have two wings and fuselage, but
I heard them regard that.
Right, no,
but in any event,
yeah.
Scary. I'm not sure I like that analogy either.
but the point is that how that amphitheater actually fit into the building is still something being worked on. The point was, could it be part of the building? That question's been answered. Yes, it can. Now, the fact that it was sort of just a slab slapped on the back of the building, it needs more work, clearly.
Thank you, Roger.
There's another thing I don't understand. If all this is tentative, if all this is, well, maybe and maybe not, why was it presented to the council on October 9th?
Because they had to approve additional
It
funding.
seems to me there's a whole lot of questions still here, some of which this committee could have delved into, could have made recommendations, could have appeared before the council with you and explained to the council what we did, what we think. If all of this is maybe and maybe not, I don't understand why the council was given this.
They had to approve the money.
The dollars,
Yeah, that's the 30% arrangement.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. It's a formal release of funds to continue the design project. In other words, that, they
understand
could
that.
go to the next level.
I understand that.
It's just that first step.
They were given a maybe and maybe not.
I understand we're going to get another crack at this for a 60% or a 90%?
Another crack at 60 and 90.
Okay, 60 and 90.
Clearly, as you get closer to 100, you make changes, you're creating rework, and you're creating additional expense.
I do understand what he's saying though, because it seems like kind of a waste of time. I mean, really, I know you need the funds, but you could have had more in place and presented it, still gotten funds. But now we just scratch whatever and then keep redoing, it just seems.
We had a lot in place.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying I
we
understand
did.
what Lee is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a
What we
lot
had in place looks nothing like what was
Right,
presented to council.
and that's what I'm
It looks
saying.
nothing like it. And it's nowhere near what we expected the people of this island to get. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
And we had worked hard on each of those different phases because we were concerned. We had talked to the Little League folks, we had talked to the soccer,
A lot of
And,
work, Betty. We had meetings, we did a lot of work.
oh, yes, and
We had agreements with, the Chamber of Commerce loved it, the Little
Yep.
League didn't have a problem. I mean, we did a lot of work.
bet.
And I think we were owed this presentation before it was given. I do.
I guess.
I feel very strong about it.
I want you all to go through and tell me what did not get put in. You know, the Little League got their 2 fields. They were on and off with the artificial turf. They really recommended the natural. We got that checked off. Now have a soccer field. That's checked off. We have a community center that you all really, really wanted and had talked about Sanibel. We got that. The entrance to Bay Oaks, you all really wanted something that would grab attention. You wanted the parcel to have an entrance. We got that. We didn't get the little welcome center built. And I understand that we didn't get the gymnasium, but I really want you all, as your homework, go back to that original list that we all looked at. We can now have our programs on site without renting the women's club or going to the church next door. We have a wonderful facility that we can possibly enhance our community programs, especially for our teens and our youth programs, which is really important to us because right now we can't have Club Rec and have the seniors in there at the same time. So there was a lot of things early on. So for your homework, I really want you all to go through that list and make sure that something that the community needs and wanted through the planning and all the meetings that we had, that is to get checked off. Okay? Because that's something that I really want to make sure to circle back around. And that was something that I tried to continually have on the forefront of things that we are not able to offer right now. And community leaders that we had that were a part of this to get the 2 fields, to get the natural turf instead of artificial, that worked out because that was a big expense, and to also have a soccer field and increased amenities for those, as well as the amphitheater and a community center for our community to be able to gather.
Waiting for this.
I think one thing that's really, all those things.
Here's I'm sorry, Karen. Here it may help you kind of visualize, because I know that there were questions about did the parcel have an entrance on it even after the meeting, and the answer is yes. That was something that you also have your walking trail. Remember the fitness trail to be able to walk around the property? That is in there. Playground. A lot of things that were on the list. Did we get our culinary kitchen? No, we did not. But we do have a kitchen area to be able to have catering, to be able to have our programs, and if we have events, that they can actually, more than what we have now. So no, it's not our culinary kitchen that did have to get downsized, but we do have a kitchen that we can cook in and that is much more amenable
For
than
events,
we have now.
right.
For events and to serve our community events that we have now in our programs.
Let me ask you a question, since this now is all consolidated, from 3 buildings to 1 building. If there is a yoga class, and then you have a lecture or a community event going in, are those soundproof? So in other words, you're not going to be disrupting
That's
the
why we
yoga
have the
people
wings.
if there's a, I'm sorry?
That's the whole concept of the wing. Yes.
Right.
The 2 separate, so you could easily have things.
You have
going
passive and
on.
active for
Yes.
for
You can
for
easily
simplicity
have things on
purposes.
the teens in summer camp. If somebody's having a yoga class or Pilates class, they're not going to hear the space was to be able to accommodate on that side of the building and not have them run in front of the yoga class to go use the restroom and wash their hands after they had paint class. It was the logistical programming of all that was thought into for the planners to make sure that we had those needs met, because that was one of the biggest things. Nobody wants to have yoga in a tiny little area when there's basketball going on.
That's right.
Exactly, and
then for
the
the-
noise too. Like
Yep.
say if there's a youth camp program inside, we want the adult fitness classes to be on one
Exactly.
side and
You
then
bet.
the,
There's also requirements for when you have children in the building as far as safety requirements, and that we follow. And you can't have, a bunch of people, it's not good for the program. So we've had to shut down certain areas to be able to serve our Beach Elementary and our residents for our after-school program. And that's something that we really have a need to be able to improve, as well as other communities.
so you feel with this new plan, this reduced plan, you're still able to provide the kinds of things that we were talking about.
Yes, and that's-
Excepting for, obviously, the gymnasium.
Right.
So the weight room, for example, there's not going to be any weight room in this room. It's just
Not
going to
at
be the
this one.
existing.
That will be something that can be enhanced now that we have more space there. We don't have to have our club rec in that little room. There's areas to be able to expand that, and within budget now. I don't have, capital improvements out the wazoo to be able, but there are areas to improve once everything moves to the community. Right now, we're trying to multitask in one area, and we basically have one room in the gym, besides the gym is.
One room to do it in the, you
senior
mean
room
currently,
is the-
currently, right.
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about was, while we have underneath the building, and we definitely could put some exercise equipment underneath the building, necessarily high-tech Peloton bicycles, but we could put some things underneath the building so that we have more capacity for people who want to do more active activities. So we're still exploring how that space can be best utilized.
That can't be air conditioned.
That won't be air conditioned, but the new gym, when I say gym, I'm talking about weight room and basketball court that we've been talking about. When it's added on to this current building, we'll have all those amenities. It's just a money issue.
So I like that
And
word that you used. The operative word was when, not if. So
Well,
is
of
it?
course.
So the intent, even though it's not been reported, but the intent is that, there will be a phase 2. Maybe not a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. What I'm hearing is there's going to be a phase 1, which this is, and the phase 2, which just to ultimately tear down the old gym and build a new one alongside this building.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
That's what we were
Well,
asking.
I'm going to take you back to the October 9th meeting then. I listened very hard, and one of my problems now is I didn't hear any phase 1 or phase 2 discussions. I didn't hear the council being offered phase 1, phase 2.
Didn't either.
Okay, and I think there's people out there in the community who are wondering now, who've been pretty well kept apprised of our planning here. I think there's people out there now who are probably saying, what happened to the campus? Is this it? I think we've left a big question mark in the minds of people out there who were looking at this and saying and telling themselves, this is going to be great. I didn't hear any phase 1 and phase 2 on October 9th, Roger.
Well, as I said to you here a few minutes ago, our plan now is to go forward and phase 1 built, the ribbon, and a day off, and then start working on phase 2. And that's putting together a financial strategy, that's getting the design, detail designs on that building, so that hopefully in the shortest possible window, that could happen.
What do you want this committee to do now?
What do I want this committee to do? Well, if there's something that you would like to see change, please let us know. If you have any ideas, please let us know. If you need time to develop those ideas, let us know, and we'll call a consultant and tell them to stop working and give you time to generate those ideas. Feel like there's something that needs to be vetted out, we'll do that.
For example, what is the cost difference between going ahead with this 14,000 square foot community building, which I don't think is big enough for everything they want to do, but what's the cost difference between that and tearing down that decrepit old gym and building a new facility there? What is the?
Well, first of all, we're not going to we wouldn't recommend building a new facility there. We would recommend building it adjacent to
a gym, or I don't like to call it a gym, but
so that way we would have all the building activities, whether they're passive, active, semi-active, together.
well,
So
is that within the $5.5 million?
no,
New gym is not within the 5.5 million.
Now, it can be if you say you think a new gym is more important than classes and things that Allison was laying off, then we'll just build a new gym now and we'll put this on in phase 2.
I honestly think that we'll be able to get more donations, more encouragement if we keep moving ahead and we have a building that's up and people see what we're doing. I honestly think, for me, when I see that happening, I donate because I want to be a part of it. I want to see it grow. I like the idea of the wings. I didn't understand that. Thank you, Allison, for telling us that. I know it looks institutional. I think more modern than what we had planned, but I think we need to keep moving forward and get this really seriously looked at. And all of these questions are being answered, and I think they're being answered well. I understand them, and I know I'm not happy about all the phases, but we have our shoe in the door. And I think we need to continue going ahead. And I know a lot of you don't agree with me, but I think if we just keep pushing ahead, we'll get this project done. And I'm not saying it has to look institutional. We can change the outside. I don't know how much more or less it's going to cost. That's another question we can come up with and find out. It's going to cost money, but, and I agree also with Lee where he says it should have been presented to us before it went to council. Yes. I totally agree with that.
Okay, well, it wasn't, so we need, I would agree that we need to get past that. But I think that this community building, which this is what we talked about from day one. Okay, the community building, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, our first vote was unanimous, was to tear down the gym and build a new gym. Get rid of that monstrosity that's over there now that's almost useless, as far as I'm concerned. It was built wrong in '85. The roof was built all wrong. It doesn't serve a good purpose over there. And so as much as Allison and Sarah try to make it that, okay, it doesn't. And so that was our very first, I remember. It was our very first vote. So we started with that. We went to the community building. And I am ecstatic that this community is going to get a real community building. Again, I don't think it's big enough, but you can talk about that. But I think pretty well set in stone right now that that's what's going to go first. So there we are. And I think in future meetings, or I don't know how long we have till the next, you go back before council with the 60%, but I think we need to take a real hard look at that. I'm disappointed that the big kitchen was not excluded. I thought that cooking classes on this island was a great idea. And I still do. I think it would be really good to offer cooking classes at the place. So I'm disappointed that was cut.
Okay, so can I just address a couple of things?
Yes.
First of all, with the facade is probably, of all the things to be changed, it's probably the easiest. The shape of the building, once that gets set, that gets set. But then the facades are something that definitely work on. Whether you like modern or you don't like modern, or you think it's institutional or not, those are windows, shapes, and things like that could all be adjusted to address that. With regard to cooking, so one of the things, have a commercial kitchen is probably the most expensive building element, anything. So I don't know how much you guys follow the cooking world, but people do things with tabletop ovens, tabletop stoves, and things of that nature. Necessarily your old E-range or whatever you have in your house. You have plug-in convection, I think they're called, ovens. Have plug-in stovetops. So if we take one of those rooms and we want to have a cooking class, we could have a whole bunch of people, them each have two share convection oven because it has two shelves. Them each have a cooktop if it's something they're cooking in a pot. And you can still have your cooking classes.
Be in the kitchen.
Just won't be in a commercial kitchen that would be for a restaurant. There's no, in fact, if you probably watch some of the cooking shows, you'll see a lot of times they're just cooking on one burner at a time, or, putting one thing in the oven at a time. It's not like, you're cooking Thanksgiving where you have 8 different things going at the same time, 20 people. So we believe that 98% of cooking classes, baking classes, things of that nature could be accommodated.
Something. And this might be totally off. I've never been in this committee, and so I'm like, just jumping into this. But all the land and area around Bay Oaks, like not the buildings, is there like at Gulf Coast where they would do shows? I mean, my friends and I, we'd bring the kids, we'd bring blankets and sit outside and enjoy shows.
Yes,
That was the
the
amphitheater.
intent.
And that's what I mean. And then like events with food trucks, have people come out
Yes.
and, because there's so much area there
Yes.
that doesn't seem to ever be used for anything like
It's
that.
for this, it's for sports.
You're right,
Well, yeah,
Holly.
that's what I mean.
Exactly.
We talked about that early
Okay.
on. We talked about a band shelter
Yeah,
that they have in Naples and other places.
right.
Yep.
I think that's like
Apparently, we're
a
not gonna get that, I don't know.
big
but-
thing,
Got one at Bonita that's,
Well, it's using,
Big
it's
one, too.
multitasking all of that property. So, for example, soccer and, baseball and concerts and food festivals can all happen, depending on the schedule and the time of year on that same property.
right, okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I
we
mean, if
have-
you look at the overhead layout in terms of things that you're mentioning, you could see between the traffic circle and where the parking lot's laid, it creates for a very good opportunity for trucks or something like that, if you wanted to have that.
Oh, and
Clearly,
even
we need to work on how the amphitheater is going to fit into the back of the building. We're trying to see if we had the space for it. We think we do. We have to work on that design. But also, if you look at the floor plan, okay, you have a huge room in there. You could have an indoor show also if you wanted to.
yeah, that's,
Well, it's great, but, whether it's the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the school, the kids, we take our seniors out to see acts elsewhere. We could potentially bring people in, and indoors or outdoors.
well, the fun at Gulf Coast was, right, we would take the kids, they had a huge movie screen outside, and we'd
Yes.
all and it was fun being outside instead of in a gym where you're
Right.
enclosed, and the bands, it's a world of difference, we live in Florida, we love being outside. That's why people come here, to be outdoors.
We actually talked about.
Don't want to be enclosed.
We actually talked about showing a movie, dropping a screen of some type
Yes.
in the amphitheater and showing a movie.
Absolutely.
Like we do at
Absolutely.
Mound House.
so that was important to us.
Roger, I have a question. I think when we were looking at this conceptual drawing that the DRMP provided, did they come up with about a 60,000 square foot series of spaces that would accommodate this wonderful grand plan that we had? And so I think that was a total of 60,000 square feet, and now this is like more like 16? I mean, can you give me a ballpark on that?
I don't know. I could tell you that they had come up with spaces, but they had a fatal flaw. they didn't talk to Allison about what she needed. They were creating spaces for things that she didn't need or bigger than she needed. When she sat down with them and said, these are the size spaces I needed,
Okay.
these are the rooms, the room flexibility I needed, this is the adjacencies that I needed. Okay? That's what the current footprint of the building is based on, what she and her team feel they need. So it's been adjusted to accommodate that.
You know, that was early on when Becky was a part of it, the seniors that came and spoke in front of a council meeting a long time ago about not being able to accommodate those kind of things inside.
Right.
This multi-purpose area inside could have 150, 200 people, be able to have something, and I understand, Holly, I love to be outside too. But some people really want to be inside. It's to be able to accommodate what Holly is talking about as well with the outside events, which I absolutely love. We live in Florida, let's be outside, but also for that need that we heard, council heard from them, as well as Becky representing the boss. And then when we had our strategic plan and our meeting and our emails that we have had come through for the any suggestions, that was all compiled. That multi-purpose room really can help us not having to have our senior programs off-site somewhere else because our facility cannot handle the number of people that want to play bridge or games or something like that. So it was something to be able to accommodate our Thanksgiving lunches and holiday things that we have for our different programs that we have existing to be able to have. That's what Roger's referring to. We workshopped all that through very early on with our needs. What are our needs now? Like to have now and in the future.
Clearly, you know, the needs are what drives the project, no question about it. And if you're comfortable, Allison and Sarah, with what it is that we need, and based on our conversations over the last couple of years about, you know, what we would like to see, and Holly obviously recognized that first going in, saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this picture. We're now, I'm fairly confident that, you know, if you're telling me that, with the exception of the gym, that all the things that we talked about wanting to accommodate, not only today, but in the future, can happen in this square footage, and I can live with that.
There's just a few things, like Roger was saying, about being creative with the spaces, like for the culinary, for the cooking classes. We can't have a kitchen, but we have the space to be able to have it set up. We don't have that right now. We have a huge gymnasium. So the multi-purpose room that you see here could have a performance inside if they chose to, with a theater group or whatever, because I do think that was something that we all talked about, is bringing a lot of the arts and the cultural events to the Bay Oaks, to the heart of the island, to the community center, and as well as the physical activity also, because it's a whole part of the property. And it's something that would be represented with the details of the amphitheater, with the outside programs, with the extra space and land that we have, with that beautiful soccer field and the fields being still, both of them still being there, and also accommodating with the building with the different.
And it's a building where it brings people in, and that's what we've said for 11 years, is how can we get more people in? Well, the building alone is going to have people curious about what is this, and come in, and I think that unless we get this started, we aren't going to have that empowerment of people saying, hey, how can I help, or what can I do?
You know, one of the things we wanted to do is, we could be planning a movie outside, but then the weather turns bad. What do? Cancel it? No, we can move it inside. So we want to try to create as much flexibility as we can. We have music being performed outside.
Yes.
If it's bad, we can move it inside. But we're just trying to accommodate as many possibilities as possible. Just like with different types of yoga could be great this year, Tai Chi could be great next year, Zumba could be great now. We don't know. But we know we need a space for these things. And if we have adaptable spaces, we can accommodate those changes in people's desires for activity A versus activity B versus activity C. If we screw tables into the floor, then you can't adapt.
I have a question though. Like, it seems like the biggest space on the first floor of this building is the covered walkway, 7,800 square feet, 7,830. Why do we need all that? Why can't we put more things into that first floor than just having a 7,800 square foot walkway?
My understanding is the building has to be raised because of South Florida Building Code and floodplain.
FEMA regulations, correct? It's
FEMA
a
regulations. So that's why the building is being raised. Which we had the conversation about why that's bad, but why that's good for EOC type, shelter type issues. What you're allowed to put underneath the building is also regulated. Would be if you built your house and you raised it. It's not any different for us. So we can put some things under there, but we can't put other things under there.
Could you do events under there?
Well,
For
you
example?
could definitely be under there in the rain, and at the camp, the kids could be, if it's raining, they could be under there and playing some game underneath there. Versus being upstairs in a room, if they're playing something with a ball, something, you would want to do it down there then versus a room and having a ball banging off the walls. But yeah, well, we're going to use the space. We were thinking about like putting free weights and other things down there. Yeah, it's not air conditioning, but we could put some of those big fans there, and and for people who want to exercise, maybe that would be one way we could use that space. Kids being quasi outside if the weather's inclement, but still being outside, they could be under the building. So we're going to use the space. It's just not, in a predefined way.
Roger, will the roof be accessible for bay watching?
Well, right now, we're planning on having balconies on the front and back side of the building. There's no staircase contemplated up onto the roof for that right now.
We had talked about.
I mean, there'll be a way to get to the roof for maintenance activities and things of that nature, but if that's something we want to look at, we could take a look in the facade and the roof.
Talk about roof stuff.
Let me ask you, the building that's been presented now, structural design, how much does that cost? How much will that cost to construct?
The building itself, I don't have that number in front of me. I know the total, as it's shown right now, I think was $7 million and change.
Total, you mean
For the whole, this.
moving the ball field and building the building and you have to get that down to 5.5?
I don't have to get it down to 5.5. That's the budget was 5.5, and obviously it's not 7.5 is where we currently are. So the idea is to see if we can make good decisions to get it closer to the 5.5 than the 7.5.
And any of the money from Bayside Park, is any of that being reallocated into either Times Square
Yes.
or this? Or?
That's the total of the three projects right now is, I believe, 12.5. That's what the downsized Bayside Park.
12.5 from 10, wow.
Well,
So when it's 12.5, and I tell you that Bay Oaks is 7.5, you can see where most of the overage is at.
What is the budget then for Times Square?
3.5. Original budget was 3.5, 1.5, and 5.5. That
did Times Square get more expensive because of the kind of drainage you have to do now?
Times Square, again, there's going to be some, there's going to be some value engineering done there as well to try to see what we can do with costs. But I don't know that the drainage per se is the reason. Actually, the water line was in better shape than we thought it was. Storm drainage was always known as a need there.
What is the timeline now for this first phase? I'm going to continue to call it the first phase
I
because,
don't disagree with you.
okay. So what is the timeline now for this first phase? When would a building go up?
Well, that depends on how smooth we get to 100% design. So, the consultant has been given the green light to go from 30% to 31%. They're working on that now, and they'll continue to work on that. The less we have to go backwards, obviously. They'll be done as soon as they can be done. Our goal right now is to start Times Square May 2021. It's our first construction goal. It's an 8-month project. So assuming that that happens on time, then really thereafter that, we would start the construction of.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Paul tell us that timeline, or didn't he tell us July would be our construction? Told us that. Anyway.
The answer is it could be, and obviously that's a date we have circled because, theoretically, the end of the school year, so we would want to try to do as much as we could during the summer. But what we don't know is there's a getting advantage to get one contractor to do multiple projects or have different contractors doing different projects on different sites. So that's one of the things we have to establish.
Well, I know that I haven't sounded like it, but I am really, really ecstatic about the building. There's a design. How much changes it gets is determined, but I'm really glad that we've gotten to this point.
I am too.
I'm really glad that the people of this island are going to get a community center, because the gym was never a community center, and they deserve a community center. So I am really happy about that. I congratulate the staff, and Paul, and everybody for the hard work you guys have put in. And I believe what I heard today is that this committee can now go forward with recommending some perhaps changes in building design or things like maybe the kitchen or.
Well, I want to be clear. We consider this committee an integral part of getting this project moving, concept moving, started, built, etc. Okay. There's nothing, I heard the word in cement. There's nothing in cement. Nothing. While we're sitting here talking about it, Paul and his team are working on it. That doesn't mean that if someone comes up with something that's worth investigating, worth looking at, worth changing, we're not going to change it. And when we get to 35%, we definitely don't want to be changing stuff. But between the 30 and the 60% is when sort of take the concept, the idea, start figuring out the constructability of those things. And well, let me tell you, there'll be further changes. Even if the committee comes up with none, there'll be further changes. I absolutely guarantee you that. But there's still room for this committee to make changes. And if they make the project better, they offer us more flexibility, offer us ability to offer new and other things to the community, we're in favor of that. We have realization of the budget, though, that we always have in our mind. It doesn't limit our thinking, and we don't want it to limit our thinking, but we have to be cognizant of it.
Two questions. One is the existing pool restrooms and changing areas. At one point, that was going to be relocated into another, one of the buildings, and the other idea was that it was going to remain. What is the status of that? Because it's not indicated on this plan.
Right now, when we were trying to build the building around the pool, again, we were looking at how much could we incorporate in that?
Right.
So once we realized that, that concept really didn't work as well as we initially thought it would, and we moved it, to this other location, we really look at the gym is, replacing the gym as a phase, replacing the pool as a phase, whether those become one phase down the road or they remain two separate phases, we'll see. But right now, it's a future project.
The restrooms will stay for now.
Okay, so the existing building is going to be staying
Yes.
for now, okay.
It's like the
Yes,
gym.
just like the gym, yeah.
The second question is, what is
But the
the,
difference is with the gym, we'll be able to move the staff and the kids program out once this building gets built, so the gym will have a little more flexibility, notwithstanding the shortfalls that Lee has pointed out on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
staff offices and storage, is that going to be in the new building?
Yes, we have accommodation for
Have
storage.
they not have the floor, did we give them a little floor?
We did, yeah.
I think as soon as you walk in the door, the officers are right up front.
But for this one has offices right there.
Okay,
That one, they're in pink. We do have offices and also, different storage.
okay.
In there, it's STG, that's storage, so you see several different ones.
Those
All of
were,
that
and
was
those were
coming in. And-
adequate to meet your
Yeah,
needs.
and then also, talking about when Karen brought up the first floor, that's also, we can have the league storage and things like that, because they also have to have areas we did accommodate.
What is the total square footage under air? So I can get a sense of the
I don't know
scale
if
of
they
this.
had that on the.
13,141.
Was it
It's 13,141 square feet under air.
13,141? Wow, that's not very big. Not very big.
Audrey, the band shelter, or the revised band shelter, is that big enough to accommodate the Air Force Band?
Well, I think one of the decisions we have to make is, you sort of say, is it going to be, the guy's name? I would, the Waltz Orchestra. I don't know that it's big enough for that. We're going to have to say, one of the things we're going to have to figure out between 30 and 60% is for a 5-piece band, 7-piece band, 9-piece band, 11-piece band, 13-piece band, university, Ohio State University band, I don't know. I mean, but, clearly we're going to have, it's not going to be able to, at some point, we're going to say it's only going to be able to accommodate X size band.
Yeah, because we had talked about doing what Naples gets, they're different kind of people, but they get enormous turnouts. Gambier Park, the Marine Band and the Air Force Band, and we had talked about maybe we'd like to try to
That's
bring them to
outside.
Fort Myers Beach. We don't have,
I lived right there.
obviously,
I
we
know,
don't
I
have
have
as many
too.
people here, but, so that's why we were looking at a band shelter early on.
So there's two things about the amphitheater part of it. One is how big a group you want to be able to accommodate. 5, 7, 11, 30 pieces. And then, of course, the most important thing is really the sound. You have to make sure it's acoustically set up so that it protects good sound, whether we have a soloist or a 50-piece band. So there's two things. One is making sure we get the sound right, the sound is high quality. And two is, how many pieces do you want to make it now? In many cases, they have sort of the permanent hard floor of the amphitheater, and then they have where you can extend that out, platform-type tables to make it bigger if you have more people, because might only have a really big band or something once a year.
Do you build it for that once a year thing, or do you build it for, you do every month, and then the once a year you have a way of extending it to deal with it? So we'll be working on those issues. And of course, we'll welcome your ideas and suggestions as it pertains.
I went out and looked at the expanded property now that the school that we swapped, which I thought was a great swap. We gave them the parking lot that they've already been using. They got the,
Actually did something right, huh?
and I went out and looked at it because I went to school there. A long time ago. I'm an alumnus. And so I went out and looked exactly what we got. And if we later on in phase 2 or phase 3 decided on a band shelter and could afford a band shelter, a real band shelter, I think some of the land we got could accommodate that. Did you have any idea about that?
I think from a land standpoint, you could potentially build a freestanding one at a later date if you wanted to. If you think about, as I look at the plan, and I don't know all the logistics, but look at the overhead plan and you look at sort of where the first baseline would be, and then that feeds that parking lot. So I would say that that's a possibility. I could tell you that in another jurisdiction where I work, we had a band shelter, standalone band shelter, and everyone complained that we didn't have a community building. So we're trying to accommodate both without making any sacrifices. But if it turns out that standalone band shelter is a desire of the community, we could figure that out.
Oh, down the line, yeah. But
something about that.
I was trying to visualize what that land that the school gave us. I wish it had been more, but it's something, and I tried to visualize what we could do with that land.
Well, I think if I had put sort of in short words, what we're getting for that is you're really getting the soccer field. That's what you're getting. That's the main use of that land. Someone were to ask me how are we primarily using that land?
That was certainly a good deal, though. It reminded me of the old Florida land sales. Here's some swamp that borders right on the Gulf of Mexico. All Lehigh acres.
Yeah.
So, I try to answer as many of your questions as I can today, but I think one of the things you really should take some time with, if you can't afford it, is to really look at the floor plan and the layout and get a good understanding of what that is. And because, again, if that gets semi-set, then we'll be moving that design into more detailed design. So we'll have practical plans and plumbing plans, structural plans, and all of that to go with that. We really don't want to start moving walls around too much. I encourage you to take a hard look at that. Ideas for the facade. See a building you think is attractive, so the one with the Jeep hanging half out the building, or whatever it is. Take a picture of it and send it in.
Right. Good.
We'll pass it on to the consultant to look at. If there's people who say that, hey, we have a building now, can we have an indoor ice skating rink or whatever, let's get that settled now. Or anything like that.
Thank you, Roger. This is very illuminating and helpful.
Yes.
I'm just going to say this, and I think I said this as a council. I don't mean to say it in a disparaging way. I say this with the utmost respect for the council, the committees, and the community. I've done many, many, many of these types of. I can tell you it's always a difficult balancing act of all the competing issues. But if we, meaning the staff, does not press it forward, it won't get done. Not doing it to reduce anybody's opportunity for input and to keep the project momentum moving forward so the thing gets done. To close on a loan, we're going to start paying interest, and we don't want that money sitting there, interest on it, and we're not putting it to work. So
I think, because I was looking at our minutes from the last meeting, and I think the disconnect here was really articulated by Lee, and certainly Jana agreed, but it did say, Member Melsick questioned when BORCAB would be involved in recommending what to cut to reduce cost. Director Geeson replied that she would keep them informed. And so really, I think more than anything else from last month to that August 9th meeting, was it October 9th meeting, there was that disconnect that we weren't really given the updates on just exactly what was happening. So it's been my experience with community projects, and this happened at the Von Liebig Art Center as well, is that if the general community isn't apprised and kept continually informed about why they're making changes, then it really becomes an adversarial position. So I think today kind of clears a lot of that up.
We have a lot of community support for this.
again, I just want to say that we're not in cement, and anything I want to say, if you meet today, make a motion, say, look, let's focus on the active part and de-emphasize the other part. It's not too late to do that. Notwithstanding, perhaps you feel it would have been better to have this before it went to council. You still have the opportunity for input. And we'll take it and pass it along. So I'm not afraid to go to council and say there's a change, if there's a change worth making. So feel free, if you feel that there's one that needs to be made, to suggest.
Will Paul still be able to work with us, coming to our meetings?
Oh, again, every time we bring Paul to a meeting,
Yeah.
we're paying Paul to come to the meetings.
I
So if
know.
you have a list of questions, we would try to get them answered by Paul, without him being here, but if it's something that needs to be here, we would bring him here. It's our intention to bring him here for the 30 and 60% review. I mean, the 60 and 90% review. But if there's a need between now and then, again, we could do it, but everything costs money.
What if, because obviously Allison's part of that ongoing conversation with regard to the building, right? I mean, unless most of
She
the,
and Chelsea talk to Paul on a regular schedule, I think it's every 2 weeks, but
okay.
I don't
so
participate in all those.
Maybe between meetings, if maybe Allison just can shoot us an email to say, okay, this is kind of where we are and these are kind of the conversations that we're having, so that between our meetings, we're kind of kept apprised. But what do you think, Lee? Do you think that's an adequate, rather than having Paul come in and spend all of that money, just for us
I think it's, I mean, I don't have any objection to what you're saying, Barbara, but I think it's really more important that for you to say, here's what our question is.
Okay.
Facade,
Okay.
we'd like to look at other alternatives. We want to make sure that if we can't have a commercial kitchen, that we can have cooking classes somehow. So that affects how many plugs and outlets and things we put in. So, I mean, those are all, in my viewpoint, that's the way to do it.
Because, by the way, I will tell you, we'll be having a conversation like this one again.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Are those questions to be directed to Allison or to you?
but to Allison,
Yeah.
you know, she's liaison to this committee. She knows what's going on with respect to the building. My focus is just two things. One is getting it done,
Keep the ball rolling.
Right?
and two is figuring out how to pay for it. Those are the two things I'm working on. And only to the extent that something she's talking about with Chelsea, or she's talking about with Paul, or she's talking about with you, affects those two things, that's the only time I'm really getting involved.
Exactly.
What role does the architect play? Because, you know, Paul is the engineer. So
There's an architect on the team who is working on the design. So at this point, he thinks that drawing you have of the interior, he thinks that's his marching orders.
Thinks what? I'm sorry?
That little design that you have of the interior of the building, he built, as we stand here today talking about this, that's his marching orders. Now, we give him more input. I'm sure Allison's going to pass on the comment about the facade. I'm sure Allison's going to say, don't forget, although we're not going to have a commercial kitchen, we do want to have cooking utensils, so we're going to need to upgrade the electrical to accommodate that.
Or, yeah, the plumbing too.
Plumbing too. So those are the types of things that she'll provide when she has her biweekly meetings with him. Obviously, if it's something important, they'll send an email between those types of things. But, you know, when we have a drawing to show you, we're going to show it to you. Oh, I don't know that you're going to want to see the electrical plans, but I mean, there's a secret about them if you want. Or the plumbing plans. I think the real issue is there going to be a sink here, or is there going to be a sink there? You know, that's your question, not how are we plumbing to get to that sink.
Again, addressing Lee's concerns, I think the overall concept plan, as we looked at it, prepared by DRMP back then, and looking at the fact that they incorporated all of the things that we wanted, is obviously being consolidated now in a far smaller space. But the overall concept is not dissimilar from what we wanted ultimately with either a phase one or a phase two, and phase one and phase two. Hadn't that been presented as an overall plan to say, okay, council, look, we're not really going to talk about phase two today because we're not interested in funding it, but this is the overall plan. This is where this new building will be. This is where the new gym will be, so that, you know, in 20 years or 10 years, you know, that is the plan. But for today and this budget and this timeline, this is the part that we're only going to be discussing. Would that have been a better approach in terms of letting the community know that really not a lot is ultimately going to be cut?
I mean, you know, look, here's what I'm going to say to you. Building could go back to where it was. Building could go where the parking lot is if you're looking at the plan.
Right.
Okay? You know, the building, if you decided that having two baseball fields wasn't important, the building could go where the Little League field is. Oh, we could say we want a bigger building. Let's not, you know, everything you do affects something else. So if you, you know, you say you want to build a building, it's like, well, great, we can move it, we can make the footprint bigger, we could go up another story. I mean, there are things to do to make the building bigger if you all feel that space requirements are not adequate to meet the future needs. So there's, you know, I know there's a sentiment that it's been decided and we can't change anything. You could change stuff. Council changes their minds. I change my mind.
Right.
You could change your mind. Okay, we're not at the point where we can't change our minds. Okay, but at the end of the day, when we listen to
Little League wanting the 2 fields. We wanted to try to build in as many of the, what I call the passive recreation, but it is activities in their space. I had said that I want the park to be a place that I don't go there because I'm playing tennis today, or I'm going swimming today, or I'm playing basketball today. I don't know what I'm doing today. I'm just going to go there and see what's going on, and I can walk in and there's something going on. There's someone for me to play chess with, or there's someone for me to play mahjong with, or cards with, or
That's exactly what we envisioned.
there's a book club meeting,
Exactly.
or
Gathering place.
That's what we wanted.
guitar together, or whatever.
Game, yeah.
Yep.
So
Gathering
I
place.
wanted, so that's has been sort of the driving force of my thinking. That's how I think of a community center. It's not that, oh, on Tuesdays it's mahjong, but it's like, I don't know what I'm doing today. I'm just gonna go there and see what's going on, and I can find something, like-minded people to do stuff with. That's what I'm trying to sort of get
Exactly.
to.
That's what we
want.
I got one more question. I can't remember, so do we have to move the big field in order to accommodate the community building where it's going as of now?
Yes.
We have to move the big.
Yeah, in your plan, in your original concept plan, we would have had to move both fields.
Right, I remember that.
Exactly.
So in this design, we only have to move one field. The existing small field is basically staying as is. So
Is it possible to put the building somewhere else? Is it possible to do that?
one of the things while putting the building there, we were trying to kind of get a grand entrance. You
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
drive
Right.
down and you see the building in front of you, and you have this kind of grand entryway, notwithstanding the facade. We have this grand entryway into the property.
Yep, that actually works.
That was one of the things that
That
we
was
thought
important.
that this design brought. Again, we can, so like it doesn't have to be like this Y-shaped, it could be a rectangle. I mean, the Y-shaped helped us because we wanted to separate potentially loud groups
Yes.
from each other, so we put them at the far ends of the building. We know if we build a gym at one end, it's potentially going to be a noisy part, so we want to put that where it would attach at an end of the building, rather in the middle of the building. We tried to think about all of those things when we were laying this out. We didn't corner the market on every great idea. I've told you that from the beginning.
But I think having Chelsea and Sarah involved was major, because they're the ones who see what we need and the amount of space we need. And so I love the Y plan. I think that's exactly what we talked about in the beginning is
Exactly.
how do we keep the noise down?
They're yelling at the yellow one. You're the one with the Sarah page? Okay. So, let me give you just something we're talking about the other day. So you see multipurpose room A, multipurpose room B right down the center?
Yeah,
Right?
Okay, then you see multipurpose room C and D.
yes.
Okay, we're not really sure if between multipurpose room B and multipurpose room C and D, those walls should be fixed or flexible. Because if you open it up, you could get even a bigger space. So if you were having, an activity that we couldn't accommodate in a 40 by 40, we could accommodate that additional space. But we don't know if those walls are needed structurally yet. We'll have to figure that out.
Okay, because
We're still looking at that. So next time you see this, you may see those walls gone. Or you may see them staying. We don't know.
I know we talked about
From a
that.
flexibility standpoint, if they're not absolutely required for a structural, I would like to make them flexible.
Yes.
So we're looking at that.
You know, when we started with this, for example, the offices weren't in the front, they were on the side. And also said, well, wait a second, if I'm over here and someone comes in the front, I can't see, so we had to move. So they're making those adjustments. If you, I mean, there are little things. We put a shower in the bathrooms. We created a corridor coming out of the bathroom so that if there was a little show from the kids at school or professional actresses or actors or a band or whatever, if they were playing to that whole room, starting at the top of the wall, you're looking down at the bottom, they could get dressed in the bathrooms, come through the corridor, that runs behind up to the top of that building and be on a stage or something to do their show.
Right,
So we're trying to think of those types of things. So, you know, it's not like we look at this and say it's, but we're constantly looking at this saying, hey, can we make this better by moving this wall, this closet the right size, shower in the same place, in the right place? Can we create like a backstage type of thing, you know, without actually building a theater? You know, I mean, how much stuff can we accommodate? And we're constantly brainstorming those types of ideas. But, I mean, just the idea of the front and back balcony. Something was going on in one of these rooms and you needed an area to wait to go into the room where the activity started. Well, you could be on the balcony and wait there before the doors open for something at 7 o'clock.
Right.
So we're trying to create like a little lobby space, a little outdoor space. It's a little for people to wait before they go into their room. If you're waiting for your class to begin, you're waiting for your book club to start, you're waiting for your mahjong game or whatever it is. So we're constantly looking at this. They look at it once a month. We're looking at it every day. Yeah. Those types of ideas.
I really do think, though, like you suggested, Barbara, to have updates to us, even if it's on a weekly basis, so that we can have conversations among ourselves via email or whatever before the next meeting.
Well, sunshine
do
law,
that.
you can't do that. Sunshine law, you can't discuss.
We can't talk.
something
Can't communicate amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would have
We
to
can't
discuss
talk
it.
until the next
Can we still
meeting.
have emails with updates so we can at least review it all?
That's the point, yeah,
Ahead of
is if
time?
she kind of, yes. Yeah.
And if you have a question on something like that, you can always send it
Yes.
to our staff, either Sarah or to Allison.
Yeah, probably to
And then
Allison, just.
everything should come back from them. We can't communicate with one another.
No, I think what we could do is we could send you a summary of the project status meeting. Okay, then if you get that and you feel that there's a need for a meeting based on what you read in that, Betty can call for a special meeting if we can't wait till the next month.
Sure.
Yeah.
Roger, really appreciate your time coming in here.
I appreciate all your time and effort as well. I just want to be clear that it's a team effort to get this project done. You're a very, very important part of our team. And we're just trying to move this thing along and get it done. So
I'm for that.
all of us can hopefully still be engaged and be here and
You bet.
participate at the ribbon cutting. Groundbreaking and ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
We understand.
And if there's a phase 2 or 3 there as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. That was very educational. I really appreciate that because that took a great deal of time, but I think it was a real necessity for us to get clarification on exactly how it all went down. Okay, if we are finished with the redevelopment update for the time being, let's go on to item B, department update.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
Okay, but, so, we now have a lot of work to do, I think. That I'm looking forward to, with suggestions and recommendations, opinions and advice, and really working over this building. And perhaps finding ways to change some things, still keep it within the budget. For example, the reason I asked about the big field, that's going to cost some money moving that field. Okay, if you don't move the field, then you move the building. If you recall, and I know this is probably too much to ask, but it's a hornet's nest, I understand that. But if you move the building to where we originally talked about the building, like the library, up by the road, all glass front. Remember how much we liked that?
Oh, yes, certainly did.
Okay, and we moved it up where our presence was really known. Everybody going by on Estero Boulevard saw that community building. Didn't miss it. And the all glass permitted you to the Gulf of Mexico. Great view, like. So, and the original, we talked about the flat roof for the observation decks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you do that now? This is what everybody, I would hope we think about. But what that does is, it takes away that road that I was always against in the first place, but I'm probably not going to win that. The entrance across the lot, probably, I don't know. I think it probably takes away that entrance. Although you could still turn into community building as we originally envisioned it and park underneath it. So, I mean, these are ideas that we need to spend time and a lot more, like the kitchen and the flat roof, and try to come up with something that might just sell to the council. The other council, previous council, really liked our ideas. There was great consensus in that council. I don't know, I'm not sure where this council stands, even after today, but we may have to do a selling job again. I think we did a good sales job to the previous council. But we need to talk about these things and do some more planning. And I would like to start that on the next agenda.
I actually think it probably needs to be done before that. Maybe we even have an interim being before the next.
Like we used to do, like we did a couple times.
And I would love to have Dan Allers at that. If Dan is still our liaison.
Yes, he is.
Get his input from council, you know, basically, where are we headed with this? What's reality for us? He'll know that.
Well, I'm sorry that they don't want to spend money to have Paul here with us, because I think Paul could probably give us immediate answers to some of the things we might be coming up. Computer, he can't. It's going to cost more money. It's going to cost less money. Couldn't it cost less money? Can we save a lot of money by not moving the big field and putting the building somewhere else? Maybe. I don't know.
Is there a reason it was taken off the road, having the building closer to the road?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? I think it's great having it right there where you can driving by.
It's because of how it would lay out, because the parcel closest to the road is very narrow compared to when it goes back. So the scale of the building had to totally be changed to accommodate that. you wouldn't have these big rooms and things. So it originally was supposed to be 3 buildings, like a little one for an entrance and then boom, boom, like that, but lost that front one.
Even before the Welcome Building, we had talked about the community center up close to the road.
Right?
And the all-glass front.
Similar to the library.
Yeah, I don't know what that would cost, but everything now apparently centers around the community building, and our focus has to be on the community.
Yes.
Right, so we can move forward.
Well, and I think that land, if you work with landscapers, you can keep the brush and stuff low, so you will see that building. And we all know signage is everything, so I think a grand look for us would be keeping things lower, looking into the property. I think it's that first little strip that kind of, I don't think we should build on it personally, because I think that that's going to be a lot of money for us going in and parking under the building, which I think he explained, or Allison, somebody explained really well. We can use that building underneath the building for storage, for weight stuff, or things people don't mind doing outside. I know many bicyclers who would love to have bicycles down there outside. So it's just, I think it's a matter of logistics, and I do believe that that building, maybe we don't like the facade, I get that, but that building is in a good spot, in my opinion.
So I just want to answer to a few of the questions that Holly and Karen had, also Lee. Working with the team of not only planners, but of architects, and doing the building codes and the requirements for stormwater and drainage and budget cost, that's why everything got consolidated, because it is easier to build off of something. So I have to tell you, this was a very tremendous exercise to try to get what our accommodations are for our existing programs and the wish list in that budget. So all great ideas about the parcel, and this was the best solution that they could come up with to needs and what accommodations and budget. I can't tell you enough how much that budget is driving. We still want to be able to offer our community to accommodate those. It is just really, it's really hard to do. So that's why everything is kind of accommodating, the amphitheater off, part of the ball field, part of the building, everything was, and it was the creative thinking of the planning team to try to do that in order to get the biggest bang for our bucks, so to speak, with this first phase, to try to move it forward and get a lot of different things, just like the not being able to build on the first floor as the building comes. A lot of different things, accommodation. If you have specific questions, I'll be glad to take this to the team. That was the basis for how it changed. A lot of moving parts. And
Right. Okay. Well,
I'd like to start the next meeting, or maybe we need another meeting in 2 weeks to start, but like we did several times. A couple meetings a month.
if you want Dan there, we can check on his availability. That would be okay first. And then, does that work for you?
I don't think we need to rely on whether Dan can make it or not. Let's have the meetings. And, he's the liaison, he's supposed to be here, but let's schedule extra meetings. I think we got some work to do that we may be able to see in this even a better building.
make this move forward.
Can you imagine what 21 and 22 are going to be on this island? Between Margaritaville and Times Square and this building.
And then
There's a lot going on.
the new bridge at the bottom.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
New traffic patterns, it's going to be.
Our winter guests returning and
Right. Oh
all
my
the rest
gosh.
of it.
It's going to be a little crazy.
Oh, yes. Well, do we want to plan another meeting now before our December 1st meeting?
I would think that that really helps us be prepared and talk through some things. And
Well, especially after today,
yes,
because we've had an opportunity to really go through this. That's, is there a particular time?
Yeah, I'll check the chambers to see what the availability is and send out a few dates and see what works best for the whole board.
Oh, okay,
that sounds perfect.
all right. Is a particular day not available for people, or will depend upon the availability of the
Depends on
room?
the meetings for the next few weeks, yes. So
Yeah.
I'll send out a few suggestions and try to take a consensus.
Okay,
Wonderful, when this is
Good.
available.
all right, good.
Well, if we can't meet here, we can always meet at the,
Because of the, because we do YouTube now and everything, so we do need to try to meet in the chamber.
We really need to be here, I think, for
Wording.
the obvious reasons with our masks and everything, so, okay. Well, we'll wait to hear from you then, Sarah, as to availability, and then we can move on from that. Okay, now can we move on to the department update?
I'll go ahead and take that. For the new members, attached in your packet is monthly memo. I would like to report that our weight room is still going strong for the safety of, the staff and our guests. We are taking temperatures before they enter the facility, and all patrons are asked to wear a face covering until they're inside the gymnasium weight room. We're still doing up to 4 people per reservation time. The hours are varied depending on the day. We're open as early as 8 a.m. and then we take reservations as late as 7 p.m. for the last, depending on the day. We're still trying to have a good online presence, both with our senior program. I know Danielle's working hard on, we've joined forces with Lee Health to try to aim for weekly Zoom meetings. They do different cooking classes, how to cook for one, different, self-claimed historians, things like that. We're also working, involving virtual athletics to kind of do skill-based sessions for the kids and the teens, since we don't have that indoor gym time for them. We're also looking to bring about a virtual 5K, which is kind of new territory for us. So Nicole, our full-time aide, is working hard on that, and we're looking to aim for January 1st through the 7th. They'll have a week long to complete the 5K, and then there'll be some prizes and things attached to that. Our youth program, they're still going very strong. The kids, they're wearing their face coverings when they're indoors. We continue to monitor their temperature when they come to the facility, and then also before they leave, just to make sure we're all safe. They've just completed their first round of pen pals with our senior program. We've been receiving a lot of really cute gifts. The kids love it, the seniors love it. We've had to kind of help translate some of the letters for the younger guys. It's a little challenging for them. The pool is open. They're currently closed Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's similar to the weight room that we are taking reservations. It's open for lap swimming, and then also the kiddie structure is open, again, limited participation. We do ask that everyone wears a face covering while on the pool deck and in the restrooms, obviously not in the water. I have a new addition that will be starting November 23rd. Our new recreation supervisor. Her name is Amelia. She goes by Millie. She has a lot of strong background in all sorts of recreation, also aquatics. We're really eager to have her join our team. It starts the first day of Thanksgiving break, so she'll be a big asset, as we'll have 15 kiddos for our fun days for those 3 days.
What's her name again? I'm sorry.
Millie?
Millie?
Yes, I believe her Mal.
So her first name
Has
is
she taken over
Amelia.
Aaron's position?
No, Dominic's position.
Oh, Dominic, oh, okay.
Aaron's
got it.
position is already filled by Hunter Voss. Position was filled.
Okay, great. Great,
You
okay.
remember Hunter's,
Sorry?
you remember Hunter, correct? He was previously the assistant aquatic.
Yes,
superintendent.
yes, yes.
So
I
now
remember.
he's Aaron's.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You're not having water aerobics anytime soon?
No, I'm going to answer that. So a lot of people have been asking, why can't you have the weight room open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? Actually takes more staff for us to go by the precautions that we're trying to be so careful for the safety of staff and visitors. And we are not recommending anything outside where you do not have your face covering. We are not at this time, due to the pandemic numbers, we are staying very small and very tight with what we're offering. We expanded the weight room hours for a few days and some in the afternoon, and the pool opened, but we are not looking, unfortunately, until the pandemic ends.
Right.
And we are all safe to be able to go back to normal, and unfortunately, the water aerobics. So no swim lessons, no water aerobics right now. I apologize, but we feel that that is the best decision now. And, you know, I'm just glad that we have, you know, laps, but
Right.
I know that that was so enjoyed by so many people.
And I
But,
bet you've been getting inundated with calls now that everybody's coming back into town.
So we are really trying to do what we think is best for the safety of our community, staff, and children that we serve. So
Absolutely.
we'll let you know, but we are, the senior program are doing programs like today. I was supposed to go kayaking at the Mound House, but there was craft advisory, and people get out craft even in the bay. So Danielle is recommendations as well program. They have a little trick or treat inside the gym for the Friday. So we are looking to just keep strong, but keep the weight room hours being accommodated to, and then some as soon as we feel accommodate that both with staff.
Thank you.
I did want to mention one other thing from the departmental report that Denise Monahan will be at December meeting to give you an update on the Oaks. Last meeting, not be here for this meeting, but she will be here for the December meeting for our normal, which would be December 1st. So we will make sure to put her on the agenda, and she will be giving you an update on the status of the Friends.
Wonderful.
Good.
There was a problem with, I'd like to hear from Denise.
Yes, yes. So that'll be something on the agenda.
Okay,
December, okay.
very good.
Allison and Sarah, you haven't heard anything from any of the organizations on the island about the project, or?
Well, no, the council members, anybody can email them, send in their comments, town manager the same way, and I have not heard anything. We also have our email that is open, have on the website for people to comments, and we
That's good or bad?
Any other
That's all
questions?
we have for the-
Well, if you have any questions.
That's all for the departmental report. Do you all have any?
Okay. Any questions?
What are we doing to promote this? I know we have a public information officer now.
Jenny Dexter, yes, she's putting things out on the website, on the Facebook, and
I guess
the
I need to read that.
fact sheet out, so she continues to have that front and center. If you go on the town website, top 10 things, she did had a lot on there, but it is posted on there. So Jenny is the one that is helping us.
Well, I'll go look at them, but has she reported on the website that we begin with just the community building?
I don't know that that specifically has been.
I think it needs to be. I really think we need to keep the public up on this.
to her, Lee, and see what,
Here's where we start. We're starting with this community building. Here's what the conceptual design looks like.
watching these meetings. I'll make sure she knows about that.
And the observer, is this stuff to the observer?
She does media releases and has things that if information. I'll send her an email and make.
Any other questions? All right. Let's move on then to board member items.
11:16.
I've been gone for a while. I've been up north, and it's been great to see how the meetings have gone on and be able to connect with seeing what the council's doing, even though I wasn't right there. I'm really encouraged today. I know we had a lot of questions, and I know some things need to be fixed. I think he was right. I think we need to do better at communication. And we've been doing this for a while, and we just need to keep pushing forward. That's all I have, Betty.
Okay, thank you. Beth, do you have anything?
The only thing I have to say is that I listen, I digest, and don't expect me to be this quiet in the future.
Yeah, and that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ellie?
I think I questions as I go, and I'm kind of just learning, taking it all in too.
Welcome. Okay. Karen?
I think I've said pretty much what I needed to, or wanted to, I should say. I like Lee, was very disappointed in what came back. And I think we have a lot of work if we want to get to some kind of compromise. I don't agree with Roger at all, what he said about during these COVID times and everything. I mean, I sit on the board for Friends of Lovers Key, and we've raised $2 million for our building in this time.
Wonderful.
So I think there are definitely ways to do it. There are fundraising events. There are a lot of people with a lot of money on this island that want to have really nice things, and they're willing to promote and help that. So I think they have to be kept informed. I think there's got to be a huge communication plan. Even if we hire a contract fundraiser for whatever, or get them to donate their time to do it. I mean, I think there's ways that we can get money to get the kind of building that we really want.
Ditto.
Lee?
Ditto.
Ditto?
Wow, Lee agrees with me.
Is that your ditto?
That's it. Ditto.
Okay. Barb?
Hey, Bet, let's see. Actually, I just first want to welcome the new members. And
That would've been nice.
I agree with Karen. And I do think that conversation, though, does need to be directed to the Friends of the Arts, because this is a governmental agency. It does not raise funds. So it doesn't really need to be addressed specifically in this context, but certainly when we meet with Denise Monahan, if that can be activated, because that's the funding mechanism.
You
It's a
bet.
501c3, just like you have Friends of Lovers Key that
Which
accomplished
does the
all of
same
that,
thing.
a similar situation.
Exactly.
That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm just thrilled to have a full board with us, and certainly welcome our new ladies, and just can't tell you how much we are looking forward to getting the input from you all too, because I guess you've all heard all the rest of us quite a little bit. But thank you, Karen, for that comment on being able to raise the money, because certainly other organizations raise it. Why can't we? Because that is our gem.
Right,
And,
exactly.
We,
Whatever vehicles we have to use to
You
do
bet.
it, I think we need to go after that.
and how many times have we heard, oh, Bay Oaks, where's that? And we've talked about this, publicity and everything, so we have an opportunity with the location that we've got and what's going on. So I certainly thank all of you for your time and effort, and look forward to our next meeting before the December 1st meeting. So, okay.
Ready?
Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad you, whatever happened to the idea of renaming Bay Oaks?
I think we're not there yet.
Well, I don't
It's
think
not
we're,
first things on the
I don't think
agenda.
we're quite there yet.
I
No.
think we're all still in that mode of thinking,
Yep.
but
Yep.
we're just not
Let's
there.
get this thing going and then we
Yep.
can go on from there.
Okay. If there isn't anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Okay, Barb, and,
I second.
okay, and Jana? All in favor? Opposed? We don't have to worry about that. Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
Karen,
Thank you.
Karen must have been watching because he sent an email.
I'll see you guys on the team, but I have to get my.
Oh, shoot, I gotta give them